Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. I've already recorded this video, but I neglected to mention that the fonts are very important. So if you have a look at this sheet back here, this would be all the font glyphs that you'd want to have. So if I click over here, you can see, I think it's 1200 and something glyphs here, where the English language covers 26 letters, 10 numbers. It's pretty basic, punctuation and all that. So you need a font that's going to support localization. In the project file that I have here, you'll be able to see your included files here. And that font is included. So you have this project will work no problem once you open it up. But for your own games, I'm not sure if you're able to rip that font out. So if you just Google, free fonts for games, all you'll do is just drag that that font file right into your game maker, and it'll go into your included files. And then if you want to use my script here to load that and create a font here, find the directory to load from, create a font to a global variable, and then set your font. It's as simple as that, but it's all going to be in here. That's in the init game script. Other than that, I'm going to let you get back to this tutorial, and hopefully you download the project file and find something useful. Thanks. Bye. Hey guys, welcome to a quick tutorial. This is going to be more of a project that I'm just going to dump on you. But I'm going to show you some localization. So when you create a project and you target it towards just North America or just English-speaking people, you lose out a little bit. So I just wanted to show you some stats. My game Brother Brother, it's been out for a year. It wasn't the biggest success in the world, but it was a learning experience. So I thought I'd show you a map of where it was mostly downloaded. I made sure that when I released it, it had, I want to say, 7 languages: Chinese, English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Polish, and yeah, there were a few of them. So I'll show you here. I mean, if we look at just the English-speaking populations here, let me get my big old calculator. We've got the United States, 64, Canada is 15, UK 11, and what's Australia got? 5. Oh, there's a big number. 64 plus 15 plus 11 plus 5. So the specifically English countries are 95. That's somewhere around 45% of my sales were just English. So having a wide span of languages, and some places have dual languages. A lot of people know English, but maybe they live in Spain. But to be able to have them play in their native language, that's it's nice for people. So I'll show you what I did. Here's my little game here. You get a character, you can move with WASD or the arrow keys, but you can interact with stuff with the space bar. So I'm going to go talk to this flower, a pretty white flower, interesting. Or this guy. I used to play in the ocean here until a shark killed my entire family. Now I just stand here lifelessly. So he's got that going on. And if I like this guy, I made him yappy. If you look right at his face there, he's yapping, waving his arms around. So if you hit enter, it pauses it, and you can select a different language, so French or Spanish, just because I wasn't going to do like 8 languages. This is just an example, but from this you'll be able to, I'm going to upload the project file. You can just strip it all of whatever you want in it. There's a few neat things going on. So French, so now when I go back and talk to this poor soul, he'll speak to you in French. Get away from him. You can talk to the tree. So it's grand chenet. And here's a sign. I'm not going to try to read that sign, but it says something about there being sharks in the ocean. It's funny, I think. But I think a lot of this stuff I do is funny. So let me show you where all of this stuff happens. So on the certain objects that you can interact with, well, let's start with the player. So the player, and this will all be included. I've really tried to comment it well. So the player has an input script just to get the controls, and they're very basic. The step event here, let me zoom in. So right after you get the input, it checks for an interaction, and you can see in the input script, that's linked to the spacebar. So if interact, it's going to determine which direction you're facing using a variable, and I try to describe how that works. And then it creates the interact object. So once the interact object is created, has a little alarm, destroys itself pretty much right away. So let's go to the object and that's all I'm really going to describe to you because there's a lot going on here, but that's really the big thing to be able to get the text going. So here's the sign. All it has is one event in it, interact, the collision with that interact object which you created. And what it's going to do is, upon the collision, it's going to, with other, so with that O interact, destroy, get rid of it so it's not colliding with a bunch of different things. And then from there, it's going to create a text box. So instance create text box, and then it's going to feed the text to the text box right here. So inst, referring to the text box, dot text, so the text of the text box, and it's going to give it the text based on a script, which is local string. So I want it to have text, and let's see this script here. So all of the text in the game is basically going to be contained in a script, and this isn't probably the best way to do it. When I did it with my own game, the criticisms were, why didn't you load it into a text file and then you could give it to your translators, or why didn't you do it in a JSON file? And I have no idea what any of that stuff is because I'm a simple man. So what this does is it grabs the script local string, you give it one argument, and that's the bit of text that you want to get out of it. So you can see here, it's the text for the sign by the water. So number 3 would be referring to case 3 right here. So what it's going to do is it's going to get into the script. It's going to give you a temporary string variable to hold the text. Then it's going to go down to here. It's going to check the language. So if it's English, global language would equal 0. And that's all contained in the init game here. So global language is just a global variable. I use it with numbers. 0 is English, 1 is French, 2 is Spanish. And that's just going to let the game know which language it's behaving. You can see me covering with my hand. My kids are out there being crazy, trying to block sound waves. So global language equals 0. That means it's English. So let's go back to our string script. So now that we know if global language equals 0, which it is, it's going to go into a switch statement and take in argument 0, which is that number 3 we just fed it. Because we know this sign is always going to read the same text, which is this right here, number 3. And if it was English right here, it's going to read, the ocean is very big, it can hold at least 3 sharks and one boat, which is not untrue. So don't get mad at me. But if it was French, if global language equals 1, it's going to go down to case 3, and it's going to give you that same string right here. If it's Spanish, global language equals 2, it's going to go down to string 3 or case 3 again, and it's going to make the string the right string. And then once it's all said and done, it's going to return the string, which just means that it's going to essentially let this right here, it would be the same as if it was written like this. String. It'd be the same as it was like that, except that's the variable I've returned and put back into the object now. So that's how that works. Really, oh, and then I guess you can go to the pause menu. I'll show you that again really quick. It's really just one button and a display object. Once this game loads up. So you hit enter, and I've included the whole pause system too. It's pretty basic. You hit enter, it takes you to a new, it makes your room persistent, so it's going to save everything in your room. It teleports you to a pause room, but it's taken a screenshot of your background and slipped it into the pause room. It draws a dark gray rectangle, which you can see is the background there, and then paused, and then a couple objects in here. So the white rectangle in the center that you see is it's just an object displaying the word, and this on the sides here is just one object. It's a button, and it's going to let you cycle through your languages. And every time I hit that button, it's increasing that language variable by 1. Clicked right here. So if image X scale is 1, and you can see here, this is the right arrow. That is the way that the arrow is drawn, X scale 1. It's going to plus to the language variable, and if it does get to 2, which is Spanish, and it goes over 2, it's going to reset back down to 0. Again, these aren't best practices for buttons or for anything. I'm just showing you what worked for me. And, you know, in a basic game with minimal knowledge, you know, at least you'll be able to get it out to, you know, Portugal and Brazil, and they'll be able to play in their native language. As far as translating goes, what I had done, and again, you can do differently if you want to pay translators and do your best. What I had done is just written all the game stuff like this. This text is very complicated. And then I'd go over here, change it to French. And now it's in French. So I can copy that. This is just Google Translate. And I can come back to my local string, and I can throw it underneath my French line right here. And then what I did, because I know Google Translate's probably not going to get it perfect, so this is actually French, and we want to change it to English now. You can double check yourself, make sure that the French retranslate it back into English. But what I did was, once I had my full game text compiled, I reached out on Twitter and found some really cool people who were able to overlook it and review it. You know, I got a Polish guy, a really nice couple guys down in Brazil for Spanish and Portuguese. Chinese was actually a really nice guy named George who lives around here. He's actually a friend of mine. So him and his wife, who are native to China, took it all, and they laughed at how bad Google did Chinese. So if you're doing Chinese, be careful, because I guess it kind of butchers it. And him and his wife actually went and writ it out on the computer and correct everything. It was awesome. And you can see China, a huge market. For me, out of my 200, it's 11. So I mean, it's 5%. But Japan, I'm sure they're speaking simplified Chinese there too. Maybe in Russia, they're Asian, right? Don't tell them that. But yeah, so that's the basics. You just translate it, and then you can either pay somebody to look over and review it and correct it. A lot of times for me, it was a live chat or a phone call that I had to make to go over the context of all of the languages. But yeah, that's about it. So I'm going to upload this project file with the video. And there's a lot of goodies in there for people who are just starting. You know, there's a character that moves around. There's an NPC you can talk to. There's a rock. What else do you need? So thanks for having a watch. And if you do have any questions about how it's done, leave it in the comments or reach out to me on Twitter, which will be below too. And yeah, if you get a chance, check out my game too. While I'm here, I might as well plug it to you, right? Brother on Steam. Actually, now that I've got your attention, it's only $1 American, whatever that converts to in your own local time there. So if you get a chance, go play it. You'll spend about 3 hours in a nostalgic tiny world. So thanks again, and I will hopefully hear from y'all eventually.